Do you remember the shooter in the University of Texas at Austin?
I remember that one.
Okay?
Yeah.
There's a movie they made out of it called The Tower, where he left a note saying, I just want to kill people. Something must be wrong with my brain. Please, when I die,
look into this.
They looked, and there was a tumor putting pressure on a part of them. In fact, that's how we learn anything about how the brain works when you have situations like this.
Person had the free will to write a note. He had the free will to write the note. So he did not have the will to resist shooting.
Why isn't that line always in motion as we learn more and more about how the mind works?
It is, in your words, a perimeter of ignorance. When Newton said we couldn't explain certain things, right? God must have done it.
Of course.
That's a God of the gaps.
Of course.
That delineates what we don't know.
So why does the border between what we call choice and what we call compulsion keep drifting every time we sharpen our understanding of the brain and the cosmos? Consider the unnerving timing of your own decisions. Long before the sensation of I chose arrives, networks of neurons begin ramping up, as if a vote were already underway and your conscious mind is the last to be informed of the result. That delay doesn't erase responsibility, but it shifts the spotlight. It says the author of your actions might be wider than the feeling of authorship itself. Here's the friction. If some parts of you can be moved without your permission, what counts as you? Now expand the frame. Not every atom composing your thoughts was built in ancient stars. Most of your hydrogen was born in the Big Bang, but many of the heavier elements were forged in stars and their explosions. Calcium, gating a synapse, was forged in stars and their explosions. Iron steering oxygen through your blood was synthesized in supernovae. From dying giants and detonating white dwarfs, the universe wrote its periodic table before you wrote your first sentence. That's not poetry. It's causation across epochs. Gravity gathered clouds, stars forged elements, chemistry built molecules, and biology assembled a brain that evaluates futures. We live at the end of a very long chain of events. If physics sets the stage so thoroughly, is freedom just an illusion tucked into the margins? It's tempting to jump there, but notice what the universe actually teaches us about prediction. We can calculate a solar eclipse centuries in advance, its date and path with astonishing precision, though not to the exact second. Yet I cannot tell you what word you'll think of in 5 seconds. Same physics, different system. Deterministic rules can lead to effectively unpredictable outcomes when many parts interact. That's chaos, tiny differences amplifying into entirely different endings. Your brain swims in that sensitivity. A whisper of chemistry, a flicker of attention, and the path forks. Unpredictability is not freedom, but it opens space where rigid scripts dissolve into probabilities. The sky offers both clockwork and turbulence, and our minds resemble the latter more than the former. But unpredictability alone doesn't give you a will. Cosmic rays shower through your skull all the time. Most pass like ghosts. Quantum randomness jitters at the foundation of matter, yet a dice roll is not a decision. What begins to look like a will is something else, a control system inside a larger causal world. Think of how we describe a hurricane. On the smallest scale, it's molecules bouncing. On the human scale, it's a spinning storm whose track we can't steer, but we can nudge outcomes by seeding data into forecasts and relocating people out of harm's way. We use the right level of description to act. Minds are like that. A brain is not exempt from physics. It's a structure that exploits physics to model, evaluate, and steer. Agency lives at that higher level where information has causal power, where a representation of the world inside your head shapes what your body does in the world outside. You are not a ghost in the machine. You are the machine as it models itself. This is why the line you drew earlier keeps moving. The closer we look, the more we find levers. Tumors, strokes, electrical storms across the cortex. Each case shows how specific circuits affect impulse, empathy, foresight. When a lesion erases the brake pedal in the frontal lobes, we see what once felt like character was partly circuitry. That knowledge doesn't absolve us of building a just society. It redefines what justice is for. Are we allocating blame to satisfy a story, or are we making future harm less likely? In physics, you don't yell at an asteroid. You calculate its orbit and push it. In neuroscience, that might mean therapy, medication, stimulation, or redesigning environments. The more we trace causation, the more responsibility looks like responsiveness to reasons. the capacity of a mind to incorporate new information and change course. And that, unlike a meteor's trajectory, can be cultivated. Our moral intuitions were calibrated on an older cosmos where ignorance was thick and cause and effect wore masks. When storms destroyed a harvest, the explanation felt personal because we lacked a map. As the map filled in, lightning as electricity, illness as microbes, humanity did something remarkable. We didn't shrink. Our circle of concern expanded. We moved from appeasing forces to understanding them. That same transition is unfolding for the mind. MRI and microelectrodes are not excuses. They're cartography. They reveal that will is not a mystical exempt zone, but an emergent capacity, a brain learning from experience, predicting consequences, and inhibiting or enacting behavior accordingly. Freedom becomes a measure of how well your internal model matches reality and how many options your biology and culture make available for you to evaluate. And the cosmos has more to say about that. Time flows in one direction because entropy increases. Memory is possible because the universe holds a record of the past in the arrangement of matter and energy, footprints in sand, synapses reshaped by experience. Choice is the act of using those records to narrow the future. A star collapses because it must. A person refrains because they can see. That foresight is costly. It requires energy, attention, a brain that represents possibilities. It can be degraded by disease or enhanced by education. In Einstein's space-time, your clock ticks differently on a mountain than at sea level. In a mind, your moral clock can tick differently depending on sleep, stress, nutrition, trauma. These aren't excuses, they are parameters. Change the parameters, and the set of reachable futures changes with them. So why does that border between intention and inevitability keep drifting? Because knowledge is a kind of propulsion. Each explanation turns an invisible shove into a visible variable, and variables can be measured, predicted, and sometimes altered. Our ancestors filled gaps in understanding with stories of agency outside nature. We fill them with mechanisms inside it. That shift doesn't eliminate will, it situates it. Free will is not the absence of causes. It is the organized use of causes. It's a level at which a system models itself and its world, weighs outcomes against values, and selects among available paths. The boundary moves because our map is improving, and with a better map, the territory of responsible action doesn't vanish. It becomes navigable. The answer, then, is not to freeze the line where mystery remains, but to draw it where intervention begins. When the brain is damaged, we repair what we can and redesign what we must. When it is intact, we expand its agency by expanding knowledge, opportunities, and care. In a universe governed by law, meaning arises where a mind learns to predict and to choose within those laws. That's not a retreat from freedom. That is freedom, understood. Like if this was interesting, and hit the subscribe for more.